I'm Nick Wray. I'm ambassador for the St. Francis Gala. Currently work at South Nottoway. I've been there for 17 years, worked as a counselor, currently the assistant principal, and then bus driver, sometimes cook, whatever I need to do. I guess I'm vested in this cause as ambassador because when I started in my job, I really had no training in what I was doing. I showed up for an interview and got a job. It wasn't even trained in education at the time, so I really had to get training right away to start to figure out what I was doing. It took several years for me to figure out what I was doing. I'm still not sure that I know some days what I'm doing, but mental health, it seems to be a taboo thing in our community. It's been really hard to deal with that mindset up until a few years ago when we did have our first suicide in the community. I think at that time there was a bit of a change in the way that people looked at these things, and I've called that first suicide, which was the hardest time of my career so far. The awareness that came out of that was so good for our staff, our students, our community, because all of a sudden, every time that myself or our administrators or somebody asked for something mental health wise, or we're promoting something mental health wise, we had full 100% support, and it's maintained that way ever since that day. I mean, we've had an extra social worker hired, we've had extra counselor hired now, and that has become a focal point at our school. The thing I see them struggle with the most is like information overload. Like they get so much at such a young age now that I don't think they're really prepared for, and I think they've lost that ability to talk to each other about it, because they think that maybe they're the only ones feeling weird about what they saw or read, or if they're struggling with something, they don't think that other people struggle with the same things. And so it's been kind of a focal point of ours to start at a young age, letting people know that we all deal with the same problems. We have a lot of struggles with what to do in a crisis. So when we know that a kid's in crisis, how to get them the proper resources. I still struggle with that. Sometimes I feel confident I can get them to the right person at the right time. Other times I feel like they may get put on a waiting list, and it might be a month or 2 months before they get to see that person. And then the other thing is when we start to talk to the kids and the parents about going to those places, money becomes a factor right away. They don't, if they think it's going to cost anything or very much at all, then they just don't go do it because they don't have the means to do it. So getting any follow-up when we're really concerned about a kid it's a big issue. After the year after we had the 2 suicides, I started keeping track more, kind of just for my own personal stats on how many times I was dealing with that in my office, and not keeping track or not giving out the names, but just keeping track so that I could provide that to our staff. And I think at one point we were up to 65% of our students and 7 through 12 students that had at least come in because they'd had suicide ideation at least. I don't think the kids in our community don't feel like that there's the support there, I think, when they have that, so they don't go talk to people. I'd say my hope is that we can get it to a place, get mental health to a place where we can talk about it and it not be taboo. And I really think it's taboo because it makes people uncomfortable, and I think that they're like I used to be. I used to be scared I was going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing and cause a bad outcome. And since having those suicides at our school, I got over that quickly, and now I've had some really good training since then, and I know that some of our other school counselors in the area have had that too. I'm not afraid to ask a lot harder questions now than what I was in the past, and I'm not afraid to train our staff on that. I think as a whole, we're better at that, but still getting students to come to you when they're in crisis is something that I think we need to improve on. I get more referrals from students now they come in and tell me their friends in crisis, that's another thing that we teach. We want them to come let us know, but it's still really hard for a kid to come in when they're in crisis. You almost have to catch them, and you catch them at the right time. Otherwise, you're not going to ever get them to talk to you about it.